Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into an idea so fundamental, it literally gave humanity the instruction manual for building a logical argument from scratch. So, let's start with a really big question. How can you prove something is absolutely 100% true? Now, for ancient thinkers, this wasn't just some fun little puzzle. Nailing this down was the key to building, well, everything, from the pyramids all the way to modern physics.
And this amazing idea didn't just pop out of thin air. To really get it, we've got to go back to the super practical, real-world problems it was meant to solve. We're talking problems about dirt, property lines, and, yep, money.
You know, the clue is hiding right there in the name itself. Geometry. It comes from the Greek words geo, meaning earth, and metrein, meaning to measure. So its entire purpose, its origin story, was literally about measuring the earth.
I mean, think about it. If you're in ancient Egypt or Babylon, you desperately need a way to survey farmland after a flood, figure out who owes what in taxes, or design a temple that won't fall down. Geometry wasn't for philosophers in some ivory tower. It was for farmers and builders with their feet on the ground.
Okay, so this is where our main character, Euclid, enters the scene. He was a Greek mathematician who looked at all this practical, kind of messy knowledge and had this incredibly ambitious goal. He wanted to organize it all into one perfect logical system where every single statement could be proven with total certainty.
His strategy seemed pretty logical, right? If you want to build a perfect system, you have to define every single piece of it perfectly. No wiggle room, no ambiguity. And he started with the most basic ideas you can imagine.
First up, a point. I mean, how do you define the absolute simplest concept in geometry? Euclid's answer was, a point is that which has no part. Seems reasonable, doesn't it? It's just a location, nothing more.
All right, next, a line. He called it a breathless length. So, in other words, it has length. It goes on, but has absolutely zero width. It's a pure one-dimensional idea.
And right here, the whole grand plan just hits a brick wall. See the problem? To define a point, he used the word part. But what's a part? To define a line, he used length and breadth. But what do those words mean? Every definition just creates a new set of words that also need to be defined.
Euclid realized he was completely trapped. It's an infinite loop. To define A, you need B. But to define B, you need C, and so on, forever. You can never actually start building your system because you can't find a solid foundation to stand on. It's like trying to build a house starting from the roof.
So he was stuck, totally stuck. And what he did next wasn't just a clever fix for geometry. It was a moment of pure genius that would basically change how humans think, argue, and build knowledge from that point forward.
His big insight was that the answer wasn't to define more, but to define less. He proposed that we all just agree on a few statements that are so ridiculously obvious, so common sense, that they don't even need a proof.
He sorted these foundational ideas into two types. First, you've got axioms. These are universal truths that apply to all of math. Then you've got postulates, which are the specific, self-evident rules for the game of geometry itself.
And that's the heart of it. We just agree on the starting rules. It's like before you play a game of chess. You don't have to prove that a rook moves in a straight line. You just agree that's the rule. These are the rules for logic.
Okay, so let's actually look at a couple of these so-called self-evident rules. I think you'll see just how simple but also how powerful they are, and believe me, you use this logic every single day without even realizing it.
Let's take his very first axiom. It sounds a little formal, I know. Things which are equal to the same thing are equal to one another. But all it's saying is this. If A is equal to C and B is also equal to C, then it's got to be true that A and B are equal to each other. It's so obvious it feels almost silly to say out loud. And that's exactly what makes it a perfect axiom.
And his other rules are just as intuitive. I mean, the whole is greater than the part. Yeah, of course the whole pizza is bigger than one slice. A straight line may be drawn from any one point to any other point. Yep, got it. This is the bedrock, the unshakable ground that everything else gets built on.
So you might be thinking, okay, a bunch of obvious statements, what's the big deal? Well, here's the thing. The real magic isn't in those simple starting blocks. It's in the incredible, complex things you can build on top of them. And here's the beautiful method. You start with the truths everyone agrees on. Then you use pure, step-by-step deductive reasoning. And from that, you prove new, more complex truths, called theorems.
You literally build undeniable knowledge from a foundation of pure common sense.
So look, the real legacy here isn't just about triangles or circles or whatever. That's just one application of the idea. The true impact of his method is so much bigger.
This system, starting with unproven but accepted truths and building logically from there, it's like the operating system for all of modern mathematics. It's baked into the code that runs your computer, and it's the structure behind the scientific theories that describe the entire universe.
So when you boil it all down, Euclid gave us something way more important than a geometry textbook. He gave us a blueprint for how to reason, a method for building arguments so solid, so rigorous, that their conclusions are basically inescapable. He taught us a new way to think.
And that leaves us with one last really big question to think about. Euclid built his system on self-evident truths about points and lines. So it really makes you wonder, what are the unprovable axioms that we accept as true today, in our science, in our legal systems, or even just in our day-to-day lives? What are the foundational ideas that we all just agree on before the real arguments even begin?